People are struggling and looking for answers. God has given you the solution and has called you to leadership. Now it's time to grow and prepare while learning how to use your gifts. Jamal is an experienced leader that uses his gifts to lead change. Now he's sharing what he's learned with you so you can fulfill your leadership assignment. Prepare to be ignited, to lead like a champion. Well, hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome to Igniting Champion Leaders Live. I'm your host, Jamal Maxim, igniter of champion leaders. My assignment is to ignite believers called to leadership in their ability to lead and use their gifting to partner with God in the operation of the gifts and the supernatural so they can lead change. Yes, if you are leading in corporate, if you're running a business or leading in ministry or in a school, this is the place for you as you focus on how to lead according to your divine design so you can fulfill the assignment for which you are leading. And so as many of you can see, I am in the sanctuary of the embassy because I also serve as an executive pastor 3 years now, as of yesterday, 3 years full time. And so you'll see me from time to time streaming from the sanctuary as well as from my office or the encounter room. And today is a very interesting day. But before I say that, if those of you who are watching me on the various social media platforms, make sure you give me a like, give me a follow. And if you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification so that you know every time that I am live, so you can catch me when I'm live and interact with me. Be sure to comment on any of the platforms because I will see your comments. I want to give a shout out to those listening live as well as the replay of the Igniting Champion Leaders House that's on the Clubhouse audio app. And after we end the video, make sure you stick around because I want to hear discussion. I want you to come to the stage and share. And so today is interesting because coming into Monday, one of the things that I really felt was that something was going to change. So Monday was the last day of the month, and I felt like there was something changing, something shifting, something happening. I read a Bible verse, a scripture from Joshua chapter 3, verse 5, where they were about to cross into a promised land. They had been in the wilderness for 40 years. A generation of people had died off, and now there was a new generation. And now it was change. It was time for them to move from where they were to go into the promise. Now, some of you, like right now, because I've been seeing a lot on LinkedIn, people are saying, congratulations, I just accepted this new position. So I'm seeing that change happen in corporate as well as in schools. I'm seeing the people saying, congratulations, I just accepted this new position. I see a lot of movement happening, even in the area where I live in relation to schools, because you guys know I'm a former school principal. I'm seeing a lot of people shifting, a lot of movement in terms of people changing school districts, changing positions, changing schools. So I'm seeing it happen in schools. I'm seeing it happen in corporate. I see this shifting and movement happening where people are being moved from one position and then being placed into another. And I feel like that's just a natural sign of what's happening in a spiritual sense, that there are shifting of positions and that people are moving from one place to another in order to be in alignment to fulfill their assignment. But on Monday, the thing that I really felt like is that we had that 24-hour period to prepare, because change has to be prepared for. It can't just be rushed on you. Because as a believer, when you are leading from a kingdom perspective, you have to recognize when things change in the atmosphere so that you can adjust and change with it and be in the flow of change versus trying to catch up. Because when it comes to change, you have to recognize it's inevitable. It's going to happen. Things are always in motion. Things are always moving. And as things are always moving and always in motion, either a person can choose to try to adjust to change that has happened, or be on the forefront of change happening and being a catalyst for change happening. And so Monday, I really felt like we had this 24-hour period to really prepare ourselves for what was going to happen or what was released yesterday. And all throughout yesterday, I just kept reminding myself, and I just kept saying to myself, something is different, something has changed. I'm not the same person. And so, and I don't know if you felt it or what you felt yesterday, if you were able to feel that something changed or you noticed that something changed, but something did. It reminds me of this book called Who Moved My Cheese. This, in the premise of the book, Who Moved My Cheese, where it tells basically a story of highlighting where there was a specific place where cheese was, and the mice, or allegorically the people, would go to that same place every time to get the cheese. And then all of a sudden the cheese was in a different place, but they kept going to the old place looking for a cheese when it had been moved to a different place. I feel like the cheese has been moved, and we can't go to the old place looking for what we used to get or looking for how we used to be. And I tell, for some of you who are leading in business, I'm sure that you feel a change, that you feel like you really want to show up more, you want to show up differently, and you want to show up with a greater sense of purpose, with a greater sense of um of destiny, and a greater drive and focus. Some of you who are in education, I know you probably are walking in your building now because you're getting prepared for teachers to come back. It's the same school building, but something is different. As a believer, you have to recognize that when you feel or recognize something is different, it is something different in the atmosphere, and that something has shifted, and that you have to shift with it. A lot of times the shifting happens, and we have to be in alignment with what is shifted, even if we can't quite articulate what has shifted. And my friend Pastor April, the Kingdom CMO, has just joined me on the live stream. And so, Pastor April, I wanted you to jump on because from Monday we felt like we had that 24-hour period to prepare for something that changed and was released on August 1st. And all that day I felt it. All yesterday I felt something. And every time I talked about a change and something being released, I will feel like a stirring, like I would feel like a physical stirring in like my insides, and so something has shifted and something has changed. And so instead of talking about leadership content, or instead of talking about how to use your gifts in leadership, I really want to maximize and take a second to recognize that something has shifted and changed, and how do we respond to it? Because when we are in these positions of influence, if we don't recognize when something has shifted in the atmosphere, we will be behind and we will miss out on what God is doing, or we'll be functioning with old wine instead of receiving a new wineskin to receive new wine. For those of you who know Bible, you know what I'm talking about. Or for those who might be wondering, what is he saying? We don't want to be functioning with an outdated, I'm gonna use a computer analogy, an outdated operating system. There's been an upgrade, but you're still using the old operating system, trying to achieve what the upgrade it has given you. So Pastor April, tell me, what have you, just in these past couple of days, what have you felt, what have you seen, what have you sensed? Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Pastor Jamal, for this opportunity. And man, just everything you're saying, it definitely continues to resonate with me. And I actually was talking to a mutual friend of ours, Pastor Paul, yesterday, that the Lord really has been talking to me about this shift is because of an expansion. So I was thinking about the analogy, my kids have had braces, and before the teeth were able to shift, they had to put expanders in their mouth. So the expanders had to create the space in their mouth for their teeth to shift and get into alignment. And so God was really speaking to me about this, that he's shifting us, getting us in alignment, but in order for us to truly be in alignment, we have to be open to how he wants to expand us. And that's really what I've been leaning into just yesterday and the day before. It's like, okay, God, how do I, like, what's this process of expanding? And then God said, listen, I'm actually going to take care of the expanding. I just need you to create the space.
Mm.
And so us praying in the Holy Spirit and getting in God's word and worshiping, that's us creating the space. God's like, just sit with me, be intimate with me, create the space. And as you create the space in the room, I'm going to shift and get you in alignment with what I have for you. So I've really been meditating on that.
Yeah, and that's really good. You said create the space, and it reminds me of what Joshua told the people. He told them, and what the people were told by Joshua and the leaders in Joshua 3. First, the leaders came through and said, make sure when you see the Ark of the Covenant move, you move, but create space between you and the Ark so that you can see it because you haven't been this way before. I'm telling you, something happened, and we are in a new space that we've never been before. And we have to create that space so that we can see what God is doing and we can engage in following Him as we lead other people. Because one of the things that I really have been recognizing, especially for people in corporate, sometimes, believers, when we go to corporate, we go to business, we don't think about the Lord leading us. We think about our faith life as our faith life. And we don't think about the Lord leading us when we're in corporate or when we're starting a business. It's almost like we view them separate, that we just live out the character of God in these situations without living out the wisdom and power of God. And I just really recognize that something has shifted and something is different. And when we look at how businesses are run, when we look at the economy, when we look at all of the cultural influences, it is time for the believer to arise and to live not just out of the character of God, but also demonstrate the wisdom and power of God in these other settings. And so you were saying, so I love what you said about creating space. And then it also reminds me of, and I said this in the ICL Facebook group, that in Joshua 3 and 5, he told them to consecrate themselves to create that space, because it says, for tomorrow, God would do wonders among you. So there are wonders that are going to be done among us as well as through us as we create space and as we are sensitive to the fact that God is planting us in these different spheres of influence. And I really believe that there are so many people who have discounted themselves in relation to the operation of their gifting in their sphere because they haven't known how to show up in a place without coming across as religious. And so, but I believe as space is created, God will show you how to show up, because where you are is where you are needed. And they don't need the dialed down version of you. They need the authentic you, the you that is gifted and anointed to be there in order to demonstrate God's power, wisdom, and release revelation. And so I love what you're saying, because, and then check this out, Pastor April. Now I want you to jump back in. When I was doing the live video for the ICL group on Facebook, as well as the email community, it hit me in that moment that how people get all deep. This is the 8th month, eight is new beginnings and all of those things. And I don't, if God speaks that to me, yes, but I don't automatically go there simply because it's the number, and I don't automatically assume that that's what God's saying. Because one of the things I've learned about discerning the voice of God is never make an assumption. Just because it's the 8th month doesn't mean he's saying that there's a new beginning. Just because 8 normally signifies that. I actually listen for what he is saying in this moment, because assumptions will make a person miss God. And so, but when I was sharing this video, April, it hit me. He told me Joshua chapter 3, verse 5. And I was like, 3 and 5 makes 8. And I was like, okay. I could not have you planned that in my natural mind. And so, how do we respond? I'm gonna ask you this as a question so you can share with the people. How do we respond when we know something has shifted in the atmosphere? And I used the analogy earlier of the cheese have been moved, and we are moving with God, but we can't quite articulate what has shifted. And it's like we don't quite see all that is shifted, but we just know something is shifted. So, what is the appropriate response while we're making this space to be in alignment with the shifting versus parking and waiting when we should be in motion as God is moving? Go ahead.
Yeah, Pastor Jamal, we have to remember it's really hard to steer a parked car. So if we stay parked, how is God going to lead us? Like we have to take steps by faith. Like as God leads us, we may not understand everything, but we go ahead and take that step so that he then can say, go right, go left, slow down, speed up. So our response in the shifting is really obedience. It has to be. As God expands us and shifts us, if we don't obey, then it's it is impossible for us to stay in alignment with God if we are living a life of disobedience.
Come on.
It's just not possible. There's no way that you could be disobedient to what God is telling you to do and think that you're going to be in alignment with his plan for your life. They go hand in hand. So our response, no matter what, has to be obedience. Even if it looks crazy, even if it doesn't make sense, we have to make the decision that God, I am not responsible for how people are going to respond to what you're telling me to do. I
Come
have
on.
to only respond to what you're telling me. We have to come to a place where we don't worry about what people are going to think and what people are going to say. We can't be so worried like, oh, I'm going to offend somebody. Oh, I'm going to step on this person's toes. Oh, what is my family member going to say? Or, oh, no, no, no. God's like, when are you going to recognize that the safest place for you to be is in my will? And the only way to stay in my will is for you to obey what I'm telling you to do.
You said, and I'm telling you, this is definitely hitting home, because we've had this conversation. I think I had it with you last week, and I might have had it with Dr. Val. You said we are not responsible for how people respond to our obedience. And basically, you're saying we're not responsible for how people respond to our response to what the Lord is telling us, because people have the right to choose how they're going to react, and we just have to confidently do what God is telling us to do. And I'm telling you, this hit me because even right now, as you can see, I'm sitting in the sanctuary of the embassy, and I remember saying that I don't want people to think I'm being religious when I go live from the sanctuary of the embassy. It's just the best place to go live. I mean, my office has very good Wi-Fi, but for whatever reason, when I start streaming, and it doesn't, the signal isn't as strong, and I don't like videos that break up. For me personally, I don't like releasing it, and I don't like watching the video where the person is frozen but their voice is still going, and they're like, and you're sitting there like, what's going on? But I had this thing wondering, will people in business or would educators think some kind of way or not watch because they see a Jesus is Lord background in the back? Because when you come in our sanctuary, you just gonna know that it is it is what it is. So, but I'm not responsible for somebody zooming past the video because they see a Jesus Lord black background, and I try to make it look nice with the blue light versus the white light and all of that. When I'm talking to believers anyway about how to lead in their assignment, and I had to get that out of my mind and recognize that even in corporate settings and even in business settings, people are dealing with dreams, they're dealing with visions, they're dealing with demonic oppression and don't know what it is, and are trying to figure it out. It's like the Pharaoh with Joseph, and like Nebuchadnezzar with Daniel. They're having these dreams that they're toiling and wrestling with, and they can't figure it out. And one of the things I saw last week is somebody, a young lady, has a whole business on going into corporate, helping them interpret dreams. And I'm sitting here like, Jesus, I should not feel any type of way about helping people in any scenario hear the voice of God. Because regardless of where you are, whether you're a believer or not, God is speaking and always reaching out and drawing. And an unbeliever needs someone who can represent God to interpret, to help them understand what God is saying. And so when we are doing what we're supposed to do, we can't be concerned about how people may respond, because when we do what we're supposed to do, two things are going to happen, and we don't like the second one. The first one is people are going to be attracted to us. They're going to come to us because they know that there is a solution for what they're dealing with. They can get help, they can get love, they can get support, they can be understood and be in community. They're going to get that. And then the second thing is it's going to repel. We don't think about the repelling, and we don't like that part because we want everybody to come because we love everybody. But we have to recognize that we are not called to everybody, and the people we are not called to are going to be repelled. Just like when you are leading, you are not called to lead everybody. And I say this in a school and I can hear a pin drop, because when I tell them you're not called to lead everybody in your building, they like, huh, what? But I'm evaluated on leading everybody. That's true. But sometimes you might have the wrong people in your space and they might not be called to lead. And you're gonna have to figure out who that is and help them get to the right place or become the right people. And so we have to recognize that even leading in churches, and this is going to be very controversial, and I'm glad we're about to end the video. Every particular ministry church leader is not called to everybody. Even though Jesus is for everybody, but your particular church is not called to everybody. There's a particular group of people that will resonate with your assignment. And a lot of times churches get off because they want everybody. I become all things to all men so that I might win some. Yes, Paul did say that, but he was talking about meeting people where they are to take them where God desires them to go. But Paul was very clear. He would say he's an apostle to the Gentiles. And so, church folk, my people, I love y'all. Recognize, and it's just like business, recognize who you're called to, and recognize who you are called to, and then the people you are not called to, but you have a heart for, partner with the people who are called to them. We are a body, and this is how everybody gets reached, when every ligament, every business, every ministry does their part. And in business, we call it niche. In church, we call it calling. It's the same thing. Who are you supposed to go to? That is the people. But let me get back on track so we can end this video. So here's the thing. April, I know you got more to say. Hopefully you can jump in the room. Something shifted, and we have to make space, and we have to discern the time, like the children of Issachar, so we can know what to do. Because there are people out there who may feel that something shifted, but don't know what is. They just know that something's different. And in Ecclesiastes 3, verse 1, it says this. Now I'm going to read this from the New American Standard. It says, there is an appointed time for everything, and there is a time for every event under heaven. I'm telling you, we are in a time of events under heaven. And we have to know what those events are so we can be in alignment. And if we don't know exactly what those events are, we have to be positioned to be used by faith for those events when they arise. Because sometimes you don't know what they are until they hit you, and you just got to be ready because God has been preparing you for this moment. So, Pastor April, I want to give you a chance to say something to the people on video before we end the video. Those of you in the ICL house, hang out, hand raising is on. Pastor April is going to jump into the room for a little bit. I want to hear your thoughts about what you have sensed and what you are feeling and what you are seeing that has changed since yesterday. All right, go ahead, Pastor April.
Yeah, I'm so excited to jump in the room. So if you're watching this live, make sure to do that. I guess my final words here for the live would be just be obedient. At the end of the day, you have to make the decision that you trust God, that when God says something, you're going to move and you're not led by how you feel or what someone else is saying or what someone else is doing. Just be led by what God speaks to you.
Absolutely. Just be led by what the Lord speaks to you. I'm telling you, this is good. Last night in Champion University, I was talking about discerning the voice of God, and I kind of camped on hearing the audible voice of the Lord. And when Paul said, I didn't get to this part where Paul said, look, he wasn't disobedient to the heavenly vision. You have to do what God speaks. Don't be disobedient to the voice of the Lord and to the visions that he's going to release to you as you are in your assignment. All right, so that's it for this week, y'all. I'm telling you, this was a different kind of ICL live, but it's all good. I want you all to join me in the ICL house on Clubhouse for a couple of minutes. We're going to continue this discussion. If you are not part of the ICL community, I want to give you opportunity to do that. As you heard me mention Champion University and all of that in the ICL email community, you definitely want to join and get mentorship. There's only so much that I can say on the live, especially because I try to keep the time frame down for algorithms and most views. And there's only so much I can release in this kind of setting. The true growth and community happens in Champion University when we're in community, when we're meeting, we're talking, we're communicating by email, by text, by all the other means. As you walk out your assignment and you say, what does this look like? Or I'm grappling between this and this. That kind of mentorship and counsel happens in Champion University. It is not just a bunch of courses. Of course, you have access to my vault, but the main thing is you want community who understands you and how you operate in your gifting, in your sphere of influence without thinking you're weird, as well as your background experiences that you've had, because some of us have had paranormal, supernatural experiences, however you say it. And some of those experiences have been demonic and some of them have been from God. And you don't want to tell nobody because you think people are going to think you crazy. They told Paul his much learning had drove him mad. And he said, nope, that's not what happened. And so a lot of times you think nobody's going to understand you, but this is a community of people who will love you and understand. Because trust, there is nothing you can say to me that would shock me or make me think something is weird, because I've seen a lot and I've experienced a lot, been delivered from a lot. And so I know how to love much because I've been forgiven much by God. So join Champion University. Go to jamalmaxim.org/cu. You'll get all the information about it. Get in this mentorship community because that's what it's all about. Community, family, mentorship. You know, a lot of people say in churches, we need more discipleship. Well, I'm not trying to take the place of anybody's discipleship, but I'm going to tell you, you will get mentored in this community because discipleship just means mentorship, really. It's just a Bible word for mentorship. So get up in here. Stop playing. Get up in here and stop playing. That's all I got to say. All right. So I will see you everyone next week. And until then, you already know. And I'm going to include Pastor April in this because I know she's praying the same thing for you because she's the Kingdom CMO. She wants you to show up on socials and be you and take your place. It's our prayer for you that you always, and everything you put your hands to, that you be successful and you show up and you lead like a champion. All right, so we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.